Hi, Andrew here, and I was unkind to the Greenie Weenies. I don't say I was unnecessarily unkind. I don't say I was too nasty. I'm just pointing out that I was nasty to them because, well, they're scum. Scratch a Greenie Weenie and what you're going to find is a fascist. You're going to find a totalitarian. You're going to find an anti-humanist. They're not actually environmentalists. They're anti-human. And they just can't tell you that, because if they told you that, then they wouldn't be able to hoodwink you into supporting their idiotic causes. I made a video about the difficulties of trying to turn everything over to electric vehicles. I made a video where I just, took out my golf clubs, took out my driver, put the Greenie Weenies on the tee, and whack, swung. Why? Why do they get under my skin so much? Because we live in a modern society, and a modern society requires power, and it requires a hell of a lot of it. And the cheaper the power is, the better your society is. And right now, the highest density energy that we have, we refuse to exploit. You'll sometimes hear talk about the energy density, how much energy there is stored in carbon dense materials: coal, oil, natural gas. And this is true. They do have a large energy storage, but that's not the highest capacity. The highest capacity is nuclear. For comparison, to give you an idea of just how energy dense uranium and plutonium are, I used to work at a power plant, a nuclear power plant in southern Ontario. And this power plant is now at least 50 years old. I'd have to look it up. But it's got 8 generating stations. And it has, basically it's A and B. 4 generating stations over here, 4 generating stations over there. And the entire history, the multi-decadal history of this power plant, the expended uranium waste fits into a swimming pool. I read somewhere that the lifetime of an American reactor, they use a different moderator theory from the CANDU reactors, but the lifetime of waste from an American reactor would not fill an Olympic skating rink up to the height of the top of the boards. That is a very, very small area for waste. It's incredibly energy dense. These things run for a long friggin' time. Well, the supposedly environmental movement decided, based on an absolute dog shit of a movie by, I think it was Jane Fonda and Michael Douglas, the China Connect. The core melts and it melts a hole down to China. It does China syndrome, the China syndrome. Terrible, god-awful piece of garbage. Preachy, anti-humanist crap. Well, they got their wish, and we moved away from developing nuclear power. Or at least we did on a large scale here in North America. The United States and Canada, we haven't built nuclear reactors in a long time. Except the people who purport to be environmentalists, the vast majority of them are also opposed to nuclear power. A serious environmentalist does not oppose nuclear power. It's clean energy. And as I described, the amount of waste there isn't very much. But Andrew, that waste will last for 1,000,000 years. Well, there's a funny thing. Scott Adams talks about the theory of slow-moving disasters. When man sees a slow-moving disaster, he has time to fix it. These spent rods, this spent uranium and plutonium is left over from multi-decades of a first-generation nuclear power plant. We're into the 3rd and 4th generations now. And I've been reading about these, and in my last video I mentioned Michael Schellenberger, and he's written a lot on the topic, and he has been known to basically say the same things about the environmentalists that I do, that you're not a serious environmentalist unless you consider nuclear power to be an important part of solving the problem. And anyway, he's talked a lot, and so I've sort of found my way into finding out about these newer generation power plants. And a funny thing, do you know what they use for? You know what their source of fuel is? It's not mines. They don't dig it out of the ground. They reprocess the spent fuel from existing nuclear power plants. So oh no, the nuclear waste is going to last 1,000,000 years. No, it gets reprocessed and used in the newer generations of power plants. And I found out something very, very hopeful recently. My newest coworker, his last job was working for a thorium salt reactor development company, and they're building a pilot project on one of Ontario's nuclear power plants. Wait a minute. You mean you can use some of the existing infrastructure, such as the transformers and the distribution grid, the water intake for cooling and the water outlet for disposing of the heated cooling water? You mean you can use all of that and at the same time start extracting the spent rods from the pools of water where they're stored and have 1,000 years worth of fuel for the new reactor? Why, yes. Yes, you can. Theory of slow-moving disasters. There's a problem. We had time. We figured it out. And instead of doing what it took Putin's war and the sanctions and counter-sanctions and the threat of German industry being shut down and German citizens freezing in the dark this winter, it took that to convince them to keep their existing power plants open. Next step, unshutter the ones that they've shuttered. Step after that, every single power plant, every single early generation nuclear power plant on the planet, put a 4th generation on site to use the spent rods to generate electricity. If you are opposed to that, don't call yourself an environmentalist. Call yourself what you truly are, an anti-humanist. Me, I'm an environmentalist. I love, you see that green stuff behind me out back there? I love that green stuff. I've made videos out on the river, paddling and fishing. I love the environment. I love the environment to be pristine. I love clean water. You know where you get clean water? You get clean water from not polluting it. You know where you get not polluting it from? Industries that don't pollute. You know, the most non-pollutant industry, power industry there is? Nuclear. So, either openly admit what you really are is you're an anti-humanist depopulationist, or change your thinking. Thank you very much for watching. That was my time. Now it's your time. And in the meantime, take care, and you'll see me soon.